All right, so let's work a couple of rational inequalities here. So the first one we're going to do, we need to factor the numerator and denominator. And so the denominator is just a difference of squares, so it's x plus 3, x minus 3. The numerator, that's going to give us 3x, x, and let's say 2, that'll give us 6, and then a 1. And we want a minus 5, so it'll be minus 2 plus 1. And so between these, the numerator is going to give us our zeros, the denominator is going to give us our um, asymptotes. And so if we have this one, that's going to be x equals a negative 1/3, and x equals a 2 as our zeros. And basically x equals 3 and x equals minus 3 for our asymptotes. Okay. And so what we have here is if this is a negative 3, that's an asymptote, so we can't have anything at that point. And if this is positive 3, that's again an asymptote, so we can't have a piece at that. And then we have a 2, so that's going to give us something here, and then a negative 1/3 here. Those are our zeros. So we need to do a test here, say at negative 4, and say we do a test here at negative 2, and here we can do a test at 0. Here we can do one at 2.5, and here we can do one at 4. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to plug in all the values, and so if we take and plug in 0, that's the easiest. That's going to give us 2/9, and so that's going to be positive. Okay. Now, if we plug in a negative 4, that's going to give us, now that'll be a 3 times negative 4 quantity squared, and then minus 5 times a negative 4, and then minus 2 parenthesis divided by in parenthesis, and then it's going to be negative 4 squared minus 9, and so that gives us a positive. So that's going to be positive. And so from here to here is positive. That's less than 0, so that one, we're not going to use that one. And if we plug in a negative 2, and then so the negative 2 will give us the following. 3 times negative 2, 5 times 4 times negative 2, negative 2 squared. That's going to give us a negative. And so that is a negative in this area. So that's a yes. We know that's a positive. How about a 2.5? So we go and plug in 2.5, and that gives us 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. That gives us a negative at that point 2. And so this is a no, this is a yes. And then if we plug in our 4, then we get our last piece of this one. And so we have 4, and then move to the next one is 4, and our last one 4. And that's going to be positive, and that one again is not going to be used. So our only pieces that we're going to use are between here, and then from here to here. And so it's going to be from minus 3 to minus 1/3 union, and then it's going to go from 2 to 3. Okay, and so that's how we would solve this one. All right, so this one's going to be similar to the last one, except for we have a little bit more work to do before we get to that stage. So the first thing we need to do is we need to subtract our right side over to the left side. So we're going to subtract 3x, add 1, subtract 3x, add 1. And so that then is going to give us a 5x cubed minus 12x squared plus 9x plus 10 all over x squared minus 1 plus, and then we have minus 3x plus 1 over 1. So we can kind of say that that's our fraction. And so our common denominator is the x squared minus 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to multiply by x squared minus 1 over x squared minus 1. And then that's all going to be greater than or equal to 0, because after you subtract that off, it's 0. Now we can start simplifying, and everything in the numerator will stay there, and then our denominator is just x squared minus 1, which is x plus 1, x minus 1. So our asymptotes, x equals 1, x equals minus 1, are already found. And so if we're going to do a long old bar here, who knows how many we're going to have, we'll have a minus 1 and a plus 1. Okay, and those are asymptotes, so they can't be actually part of the section. And on numerator, we're going to have the 5x cubed minus 12x squared plus 9x plus 10. Now we'll have a minus 3x times that, so it's going to be minus 3x cubed. Then minus 3 times a minus 1 is plus 3x. Then we have a 1 times x squared, so that's plus x squared. And a 1 times a minus 1 is minus 1. And that should be all we need, then greater than or equal to 0. All right, so now we can start adding things together here. So that gives us a 5, oh, not a 5, because we have 5 and a minus 3. So 5 minus 3 is 2x cubed. Minus 12 plus 1 is minus 11x squared. 9 plus 3 is plus 12x. 10 minus 1, that's going to be plus 9, all over our x plus 1, x minus 1, greater than or equal to 0. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to divide this out. Now, another way to do that, we saw today, is we could actually graph it and see where it did cross the graph. And so if we divide it, we have the 2, minus 11, 12, and I think it was a 9. And then we have the 9 and 2 are possibilities, and I think I'm going to go with the 9. And so I'll just put a 3 there just to do it, because the factors of 9 are 3 and 3, factors that are 2 and 1. And so I'm going to try the smaller ones first. So I'll try a 3. And so that's a 2, that gives me a 6, that's a minus 5, that's a minus 15, that's going to be a minus 3, that's going to give me a minus 9, and that's going to give me a 0. So that's going to be one of my zeros. So then we have 2 minus 5 minus 3 again, and because that has all negatives, it's going to be a positive. I'm going to try a 3 again. It could be 3 halves, could be 3 over 1, we don't know for sure. It could be just 1. So let's try that. And so that's a 2, so multiply that. That's 6 minus 5 is 1, times that's 3, and that's 0. And so we have another one. So that gives us, what's that gives us? 2x and then plus 1, because that's going to give us a 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. And so here basically that our last factor gives us x equals a minus 1/2. So we have 3 and minus 1/2 are also here. So if this is a minus 1/2, we have a 3, that's a 0, that's a 0. Now this is 0 of multiplicity 2, but that really, it doesn't matter too much, because we're really just worried about, what the value is there. So say we choose a minus 2 as a test. Here we can say maybe a minus 3/4 is a test. Here we can do a 0 as a test. Here we can do 2 as a test. And then we can do out here as a 4 as a test. Okay. All right, so plugging all that into our calculator, now we have, what do we have? We have a 2 times, and then we have, let's try the negative 2, negative 2 to the third minus 11 times negative 2 squared plus 12. Oops, I forgot to go arrow down on all that. Okay, Well, we'll go back here ways. And so now we have the minus 2 to the third arrow down. So now we have minus 11 times negative 2 squared plus 12 times negative 2 plus 9 divided by, and then we have negative 2 squared and then minus 1. And so that should give us a value, and it's a positive, and it's a positive 15. So that's a plus. Our next one is negative 3/4. So now we've added in all that, go back and plug in the negative 3/4. And so we do insert 3 divided by 4, insert 3 divided by 4, insert 3 divided by 4, insert 3 divided by 4. Oops, 3 didn't divide by 4 there. All right, and then that should work. So that's, so here we had negative 2. Okay, let me see, make sure I type this right. 2 times x to the third minus 11 times x squared plus 12 times x plus 9. And then, because I'm not getting the answer I think I should be getting here. That one's supposed to be a negative, so I typed that. I must have typed that one in wrong, because I got the next one right, but not this one. All right, so t at a negative 2, that's supposed to be negative, and then that's going to become, that one's positive. 0 is going to give us 10 over that, so it's going to be a negative. 2, if we plug that in, that's supposed to be a positive, and 3 and then 4 is also a positive. So we have a positive, positive, negative, positive, negative. Okay, so that looks good. So we want to be greater than 0, so that one's out and that one's out. So here what we have is now we have from -1 to -1/2. Now we have greater than or equal to, so it equals at that point. And then we have from 2 to 3, it equals at that point, and then all the way 3 to 4 and on forward. And so basically we're going to go from bracket from 2 to positive, or wait, that's 1, sorry, not 2, 1 to positive infinity. All right, so that's what we have at that point here. And so that's going to be our interval where we have our actual things. All right, so hopefully that will help. The video for the last one didn't work.